Well, no doubt they are the latest craze in running.
But a News Channel 5 investigation has discovered those popular color runs may not be as safe as you might think. Consumer investigator Jennifer Krause has been testing the powder and has some pretty amazing video from it. A lot of people are doing these color runs.
They sure are. And these color runs, as they're called, are usually a 5K. And as you run, volunteers throw colored powder at you. So what could be wrong with that, you ask? Well, our investigation found plenty.
3, 2, 1.
It's the new way to do a 5K. They're called color runs because of all the brightly colored powder you find at them. By the end of these events, participants are usually covered in it. But our investigation has found that something like this could easily and quickly turn into something like this.
Oh my God!
This is what happened back in June when clouds of colored powder burst into flames at an event at a water park in Taiwan, creating a giant fireball. More than 500 people were hurt, many of them severely burned. More than a dozen people died. So could something like this really happen at a color run? Just watch. We worked with the Naples, Florida Fire Department, who tested the same sort of colored powders for us to see if they would burn. And did they?
Well, I think it's worse than even we could have imagined.
Just as volunteers had sprayed powder over the runners who lined up at the start of this race, firefighters sprayed it over a flare and got spectacular results. The entire stream of flying powder ignited and became a stream of flaming color. And just as volunteers toss handfuls of powder at runners at various spots during these races, in another test, firefighters tossed handfuls into the air over a flare. And watch what happened. Instant flames.
It's just like burning gasoline.
Race organizers say the powder they use is a dyed cornstarch that's 100% safe. But Naples Fire Chief Stephen McInerney told us it's a carbohydrate and starch that readily burns.
And when it's mixed or atomized in the air, it's explosive.
In the Taiwan fire, there was a giant cloud of this powder shot out over the crowd right before the fire.
Whoa!
Investigators still have not figured out what set it off. But you'll often find the same kind of clouds of powder over the crowds that gather at these races.
I think that was probably the most concerning, that these events throw this powder in the air. They actually advertise and promote you throwing it above your heads all at once.
And that's exactly what happened several times, both before and after this recent color run in Nashville. And when it did, as you can see, the powder was so thick you could barely see just feet in front of you.
And if there's an ignition source, everyone's engulfed in flames at one time.
And Chief McInerney isn't the only one who's concerned. After the tragedy in Taiwan, government officials there immediately banned the use of these powders until they could determine if they were safe. While in the U.S., the Kansas State Fire Marshal issued a warning about color runs, stating, quote, most of these events generate sufficient colored powder and cloud dispersion to create a fire hazard. Back in Florida, after seeing this, the Naples Fire Marshal told us if it were up to him, color runs wouldn't be allowed.
Under the right conditions, a very joyous event can turn into a real tragedy by having people get horribly burned.
And that's why people who do these runs need to be warned.
You have extreme danger. You're putting yourself in extreme danger.
Fire experts say this powder is a lot like paint and coal dust, which is also highly combustible. And under the right conditions, they say a simple spark, electrical equipment, hot surface, or static electricity can ignite it.
You know, after watching that, I can't believe that breathing that in would be good for you either.
We were thinking the same thing. So we had the color powder analyzed, and we're just getting the preliminary results of the test back now. We will have them for you coming up tomorrow night at 6. But I think after you see what we found, fire and flames won't be the only thing you'll be worried about at one of these color runs.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer.